Day 11 of the Irish Coast Cycle was going to take me from Kenmare down the length of the Beara peninsula to Allilhes. And the first stop on my trip was going to be Uirg Stone Circle. So this is a Bronze Age monument of 5 stones overlooking a lake, and then in the far distance there's a waterfall. It's about, I think, 4 kilometres off the main road up a rough dirt track. I'll show you exactly what that looks like in a moment, but absolutely stunning location, well worth a visit. So sometimes the road you end up cycling on is a little bit rougher than you intended. This one being a case in point. That was a well-timed arrival, thank you. Alright. Yeah, this was the way out, wasn't it? Do that, you won't have the energy, either in battery power or legs. Well, I get why locals can sometimes feel frustrated with this sort of situation where there's lots of people going back and forth. I'll shut up, we'll listen to the birds. So the main problem with views like this is that to get them you have to come up to the top of the bloody hills. But at least have a good downward slope. You can stay off the main road for part of this trip by following the parallel road that goes up the ridgeline instead. Of course, that means you've got to come down again. But coming down, I actually found this pub by the harbour, which had an excellent meal of deep fried scallops and chips that I thoroughly enjoyed with a pint, and took the opportunity to give the batteries a bit of a charge again. I think it was around now I also contacted a friend and said, hey, I've been looking at the Skelligs for the last 3 days. How do you fancy doing a trip over? And indeed I booked a place, and we went over I think a month or so later. Thoroughly recommend the Skelligs. I was there in I think mid-July, so there were lots of puffins still out, and the climb to the summit goes right through puffin territory. Anyway, back to the trip down. As you go down through the Beara Peninsula, there's also a lot of woodlands that you're going through, and you're also making the transition from being in Kerry to being in Cork at a certain point on that road. And once you're in Cork, of course, you no longer have to pay to see the stone circles. I'm joking, aren't I? Only sort of. Anyway, this was the next stone circle. Again, really impressive, larger than the previous one, and also fascinating for its place in the landscape. My main theory of stone circles would be that they basically just built them if the view was beautiful. They're almost always worth visiting, just purely to stand there and see what's around, because it's always kind of amazing. The other interesting thing is they never seem to be built on the highest point, unlike the old Neolithic cairns which you get stuck on mountaintops. But kind of somewhere that's sort of high enough to have a view, but even locally isn't even the highest point of the hill. Ardgroom Stone Circle is again a short diversion from the main route down Beara, and then a bit of a hike through I think 3 or 4 fields, but I think you'll agree with me, it's a hike well worth doing. So one interesting theory of stone circles is that sometimes the tops of the stone reflect the mountains in the distance, and this seems to work quite well here. So here's this one. Right, we come along
coincided these two guys. Oh yeah, here we go, right angle. They could be those. This, I think, could be the one poking its head over the top here. Sorry, that's that one there. And this one is the tallest and perhaps could be Carrauntoohil, which you can see poking over the top over there. It's a theory.
Coming out of the Allilhes, the shortest parent route on the map is this very rough gravel track. I followed it up for a while, but then I lost my nerve. I wasn't sure my bike was going to be capable, so I had to backtrack and do a very long additional, I don't know, probably 15 kilometers along the coast road, which is a good surface but has got some very serious climbs on it. It did have the advantage that meant I was doing the descent into Allilhes at sunset, and in fact I shot quite a long video of this. Which I will give you speeded up. At this stage I hadn't yet discovered the time-lapse setting on my GoPro. Really, well, I don't think I discovered that in fact until this year, but most of this year's videos as a result use that setting instead, and I'm able to give you complete road footage from entire trips rather than just the couple of segments I have here, which were moments when I thought of strapping the camera onto my head. Also not a comfortable way of doing this. I put a lot of work over the winter into working out how best to shoot video, and I have a side video which I'll pop in here on that topic. Anyway, got down to the Allilhes and had myself a fine meal after that tough day cycling, and then headed off searching for a very rudimentary campsite in the locality, which I found. Set myself up for the night, went down to have a look at the beach. I was thinking of having a swim, but it was a little bit rough. Well, not so much rough, but I was very suspicious of that undertow because there was a fair drop off there. Anyway, I then realised an absolutely spectacular sunset was taking place, so I decided to head out to the edge of the bay, which was a higher spot, and have a look at it, and that was really worth my while. I did have half a bladder of wine left from the previous night, so I was able to sit here, watch the sunset and have a drink. So this ends day 11 of my Irish coast cycle. Hope you're enjoying these so far. Please do give the channel a follow so you get to see the rest of them as I post them, and if you've liked this video, do give it the thumbs up.